Source
face.
You want to wrap it up, or?
Well, it's 5 o'clock exactly. We're talking.
Okay. Do you want to finish the conclusion? Go ahead.
What?
Did you get the story?
No. We're just hold on a minute. So anyway.
We are on.
Welcome, everyone. Today is Wednesday, December 7th, 2022. We're here for the Orange Township Board of Trustees meeting and zoning hearing. So we're going to start today off with a zoning hearing and then migrate into the Board of Trustees meeting. I'll call this meeting to order. Ms. Bonnie, you want to call roll?
Yes, Trustee Grumbles.
Here.
Trustee Knapp.
Here.
And Trustee Faust.
Here.
All right. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. So tonight we've got two zoning matters. We're going to start with an amendment to application ZON 22-11 for EVE battery. So I'll go ahead and allow you to get started on that, Mr. Duffy.
Thank you, Mr. Grumbles. All right, this is zoning case ZON-22-11. Applicant is John Wu for a site located at 7910 North Central Drive in Lewis Center. The parcel is 3.52 acres in currently a planned industrial district. They are requesting an amendment to the currently effective zoning development plan approved under application ZON-16-04 to allow a new building and parking lot on the remaining 1.75 acres of space previously used as a soccer field. The proposed development would comply with all previously approved standards with no divergences requested. I would clarify at this time that this is an amendment for the use only. The applicant has submitted building plans and drawings, but those are not finalized. Those are not set in stone. They would have to follow all the development standards previously approved in the planned industrial district, rather than us approving the exact development standards this evening. The property is surrounded to the north, south, and east by planned industrial district, and to the west is also commercial, planned commercial and office district. So surrounded by commercial on all four sides. Second page of the staff report, you'll see the location with the aerial photograph and the illustrative plan, which shows the currently existing building on the northeast portion of the property, and then a proposed building and parking lot on the southwestern portion of the property. Again, this is an amendment primarily for the use. So they are proposing to construct a new building and parking lot on the remaining 1.75 acres of the space that was previously used as a soccer field. The building would be for light industrial use. The reason they are here for this amendment, under the previously approved development text, the development text states that the sole use of that area of the property was to be used for soccer matches, soccer training, soccer-related activities, and soccer equipment. This amendment would strike that language from their development text to allow for other uses on that portion of the property. Again, their proposed building that they are showing would be 31,200 square feet. With a total of 22 parking spaces. Again, those are conceptual only and not finalized plans. The Orange Township Zoning Commission did recommend approval with a 4-0 vote of this application at their meeting on November 15th of this year. The fire department, I will clarify, they have issued plan review and construction permits for their current building, but again, since the site is not finalized, they have not issued full site approval because those plans have not been finalized. The Delaware County Engineer's Office did have some comments, including stormwater management, and a traffic study and memo would be required. But that would occur during the permitting process should this amendment be approved. That concludes the staff report. I believe the applicant is here if the board has any additional questions.
I think I don't really have any. I know there was some back and forth on the JED and understand that. I would just say too, as you engage with developers coming into the township, if they opt out and they say, definitely not interested, understanding that the long-term goal of that JED, especially along the 23 corridor, is to pull in the businesses that are there. And so there may or may not be a point in time where if the JED board once stood up, decides on a section of property and they go after that, then it's probably going to be included in the JED. So just explaining that to them, so there's full transparency on the township side, I think is always a good gesture, right?
Yes, sir.
And understand the tax benefit of a township. The reality, though, and I want to make sure it goes on the record to explain this, when townships exceed a certain population, the township structure becomes challenging to sustain. You have to start looking for external funding. That was recognized in Ohio because we're home to several very large townships. And so the legislature put together options. Originally, there were two JED types, a JED Z and a JED district. So the JED Z was more of a, henceforth, you were a part of a JED approach, and they took that away, not too distant past. The JED allows more of a discretionary voluntary approach. However, after that JED is stood up, the JED board that facilitates that entity then has the discretion to assess and look out throughout the area and determine if there's other properties that they would like to bring into the JED. And at that point, it reverts back to almost like a JED Z model. So in that light, it's not a guarantee, but it's also not a non-guarantee. Obviously, the township wants to remain financially viable and do so in a way that doesn't continue to increase the burden on residents who have been here through the growth, right? And the only way to do that is to ask businesses that otherwise come into the township and don't have the taxes that they would externally to pay a portion. And what we found through working with our legal counsel and different officials that are, I guess, the experts, Bricker and Eckler and a couple other firms that I think, is that right, Bricker and Eckler? Is that one of them? Which one am I thinking of? The one we did the first JED with? Okay, I want to make sure I was right. But a lot of them look at it as a net neutral on the tax standpoint because, it's going back as a write-off. And, we're not going after residents. We've made that clear. So when folks are building multifamily in our commercial district, the residents aren't expected to foot the bill. We're going after industry. We've made that clear in the overlay district that we reopened. What we want to see is good mixed use in a diverse, tax base in the township. And we're resident heavy right now and throughout Delaware County. So that's really the goal. I just want to explain that because I think there is some confusion as to what it is. It's not a slush fund or any of that. It's used to ensure the township sustains the quality that attracted the business here in the first place, right? So infrastructure, roads, not just sustaining that, but as businesses grow and the township continues to grow, allowing kind of a bias towards action. Right now, with the rate of funding in the township, some of the projects that have been needed for a decade plus are a decade away. So with a JED and other economic tools, economic development tools, we're hoping that we can fast track that. TIFs are an option. The trouble with those right now is it's robbing Peter to pay Paul for the large part. Our school district is challenged with funding, so if we go after TIFs, we tend to pass the buck back to the taxpayer. We are engaging in one right now that we're hoping to finalize that will help with road and infrastructure improvements. It'll be a large one, and that's only happening because we're actively partnering with the school to go after projects that they can't afford to do either. So it's essentially just collaborative work. It's easier for us to work on projects with them for infrastructure than them to do it alone. So it's got to be a partnership, or those can be bad news too. Okay, so that's my soapbox on JEDs and JEDZs and why I think they're important to a township of this size, and especially for people that come in later in the game, if you will, after the fact, and you look at the tax increment, the incremental increases over the years on residents here. We've got to find a way to slow that process down. But no questions here. You have any
No,
questions?
are they going to give a presentation?
I think so. I just
Okay,
wanted to
yeah,
bring
I
that
don't
up.
have
I know there was
questions
some horn locking over that. I wanted to address it right
Oh,
off.
was it? Oh.
And
Yeah,
just
that's
my
right.
understanding is that as we're in the process of rewriting our zoning resolution, we are going to include that as part of it. So commercial businesses that come in will be not really a choice at that point.
Right. It is in the overlay district. So one of the reasons we paused the overlay is now if somebody wants to come in and get expedited zoning in the overlay district and meet the requirements there so that they can avoid the cost associated with traditional rezoning. Part of that requirement is to join the JED. That's how important we think it is to the future of the township. It's critical that we have sustainable funding. You look at right now the environment we're in with the cost of living, with inflation and the situation in Washington deteriorating. And so, you look at where we budget for funding our departments and our expenses, and within a year, our buffer of 30% now no longer, right? Because all the materials that our fire department relies on, that our township relies on, all of that has exponentially gone up like everyone else. So it's just the nature of the world we live in. Things change in Washington, they're going to change here. So we look at that as a buffer that will help insulate this community and continue to keep it at the same quality that it is today. Okay?
But when were JEDs first created?
In 1773, Bricker and Eckler's great-great-grandfather,
Last 10 to 15, 20 years.
That's what I thought.
they're relatively new. I think it was the last 20 years. That's when you really saw, I think in the 90s is when I first started reading, when I was studying them. And really, again, I think that the catalyst for that was you started to see townships of Liberty Township down in Butler County, a great example. These townships were growing rapidly and they didn't have a revenue stream, right? So some recognized earlier than others that they were going to be in big trouble. And so that township in particular, I spoke with their board when I was campaigning in '99 quite a bit. And after I won that election, just to understand their process, they've done a phenomenal job down there of building commercial districts and setting them up with JEDs on the front end. And so now they have a multi-million-dollar annual fund that they partner with the businesses on. So that's the other part. When you're in a JED, you're part of the board. And so when businesses will benefit from infrastructure development, they have a say in that too. So it's not just giving up money without a voice. So Liberty's one that if you go back and research, it's a great one to look at. They've done a phenomenal job down there of the really nice infrastructure, aesthetics, and the cohesive branded kind of township that we're going for here with the signage and streets and consistencies, things like that.
Yeah.
They were proactive.
It looks like they were first created 93, so.
There you go.
Yeah.
3 years off.
Yeah, pretty good.
Free Pepsi.
Good memory. But I can see how business would be frustrated if they
Yeah,
were
for
just
sure.
told about it last minute.
Yeah, I understand. That's why I said I sympathize with that too. It's
Surprise, kind of.
Yep. We're not anti-business or anti-commercial, but from a township perspective, business is good especially when you look at the holistic county and things like that. But it does extend a burden on the township because the revenue stream. Luckily for us, we have a phenomenal relationship with the engineers, and so and with the county leadership. So we do have a good partnership, and I think we're increasingly getting a good share of the tax revenue coming in at the county level too. They recognize where the trouble is. Harlem Township now has taken a lot of the focus with Intel coming in. So, yeah, we're doing what we can, and recognized in 2020 that was actually before that. You all worked on a JED prior to my arrival too, but it was a known concern. Do you have any questions for the applicant? Otherwise, you guys have anything you would like to add?
Yeah, first I would just like to say thank you for the explanation. That's very helpful for us to understand a little better the township's perspective and plan. So I guess just a little bit background about us. We are a lithium battery company. We've been in the Columbus area for about 9 years now. We've been based in Powell. And actually, we just finished relocating to this new property, 7910 North Central Drive. We just finished remodeling the interior. We purchased the building in May. There was previously, the owner was living in Florida, but he had rented it out to a soccer team and some exercise. There was a bunch of exercise equipment and a soccer field and stuff. And so they were able to find another location to move. And we presented this opportunity to the Township rezoning committee a few months ago, and they received it very welcomingly. They said it was a no-brainer to them, since a soccer field doesn't earn tax money and a building does, right? So we were very excited about that and proceeded with the plans. We had a conceptual drawing done that was approved by fire department and Delaware County engineer and so on. We're making some tweaks to that, with their recommendations as we're following up and doing a full site plan with some local design and build contractors. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We were still waiting to get final approval on this before we really proceed, but the timeline and the plan is to start this new building in the early spring, as soon as possible, finish by end of next year, and we will quickly hire 60 to 90 new employees.
What kind of, is it mostly manufacturing production?
Yeah, it's going to be a production line. We are investing in a laser welder production line where we will still be importing these battery cells, but we will laser weld them together into packs. So there's no chemical manufacturing.
What's the application for the lithium battery?
It's for energy storage.
What's that?
Energy storage.
Okay.
ESS.
Okay.
Yep.
So these will be pretty large.
The packs are small, actually, but they are kind of stacked together into racks, which then can go into containers. But that won't be happening at our facility. We're just welding the batteries into the packs and then shipping them out elsewhere.
They can load into the cabinets, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So it's a pretty good value add program that will be, there's a lot of demand for that these days in the U.S. One of the reasons we chose Orange Township is that we found the tax environment to be very friendly and welcoming. So, we were focused on looking at townships. And like I said, we purchased this place in May, where the building itself has, been grandfathered in, I guess, for many decades. That's been there in the industrial zone. It's just the soccer field, which is sort of an anomaly to the whole surrounding area, right? I mean, it seems like it should be a manufacturing industrial site. So then it was just a couple weeks ago that this JED was kind of very surprising news to us, which we totally understand, your guys' perspective, I guess.
And I understand yours too.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
So, I think hopefully we can find, an amicable agreement of some kind. But yeah, I guess it was only presented to us as a cash payment. That was the only information we got, is that this will be 2.5% income tax against the company and all employees. That was 2-sentence message that we received. No other information about that it's kind of, we can grow together, or that there's benefits that we could receive in return or anything. We don't know anything about that. So that would all be very welcome for us to review, as well as what benefits from the JED could come back to support us. Otherwise, it's kind of a deal breaker for us that we're just paying an additional 2.5% that was unexpected. There's plenty of other places, to be honest, around that we could move. We don't even have to build a building. We could move into an existing place, set up our production line. Like I said, we just moved in here, so it would be disappointing. But there's a lot of cost analysis, I guess, that we now suddenly need to re-examine because, as we said, it was not expected. So I guess there's also we need to understand more about the timeline and the plan for the JED, because as we know it, there's no one currently in it. None of our neighbors are involved. And since we understand our office should be grandfathered in, right? So we don't really understand that we should be the first people forced into it.
No, you're not. So we've had several folks agree. The status right now is we're still in discussion with a partner and formalizing that agreement. But the folks that have agreed to it to date understand that too. And so as soon as the agreement goes live, then that will in turn activate. So there's a little bit of work to do yet.
Okay, because we spoke with a few of our neighbors and they all said they have not heard anything about this.
It's very
So would they also end up being forced to join?
It wouldn't be that we would go out and force anyone to join. That's the JEDZ approach. So the first thing we would have to do is get it formalized, get a board going, and then do some analytics, I would imagine, on the area. I expect that some businesses will opt in anyway. They're not going to have to go and ask too hard, just that have been in the community for a while and understand, some of them that are, you can look at the net neutrality of it from a tax standpoint, or that have the revenue stream to do that. So the larger entities, the national entities that are here, things like that, right?
Yeah.
Little different dynamic, and then
Right.
and then from there, there's I think ongoing discussion that would happen with other businesses. I don't
Okay.
think I'm personally not, and I think I can speak to, especially knowing Lisa over the years. Nobody here is going to force anything onto a business in a way that's hostile or not consistent with a favorable business. We don't want to start a business relationship that way either, right? So
Plus, like, it's a benefit to come to the township because you're not paying taxes, and that can some kind of dissuade people from coming here if you're going to be charged here and you could go somewhere else. So
yeah,
it's kind of a double-edged
right.
sword.
And that's why when you look at rezonings and things like that, especially with the overlay, that's saving companies tremendous amounts of money when they apply through an overlay. And if you look at the intent of the corridor there and what's happening to it, anyone that's there now or that's coming there is aware of the challenges and the requirement for investment, right? And it's a way to benefit collectively. So,
But we don't actually have anybody in the whole development that is part of the JED, right?
what whole development?
The entire area.
No.
Oh,
The
no.
area.
No,
no,
I mean,
no.
we've been only focusing on new development.
Yeah,
It's-
so
it's all
there's
been new.
none of your neighbors are in it. So when he mentioned
Right.
there were a couple, we're working on a couple.
It's
those
new.
are
It's part
those
of
are in other
applications.
areas. Those aren't
Not in our-
I wanna
It's
make-
part of new applications.
Right.
There's some that are close to you, right? So, but there's none across the street from you. There'll be one.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's it for now. So the two that he mentioned are not in your general vicinity.
Yeah.
And just, I don't know, just for education. So if you didn't know this, but the 2.5 income tax that we would be proposing in a JED, some of your employees might already be paying an income tax. So I, for instance, live in the city of Columbus. I would work in a place with a JED. I'm already paying an income tax in Columbus. It's not an additional 2.5%. Most of the time, it's usually that, what's the term?
Like a reciprocity kind of idea, right? Where you, or it's like use as an offset to somewhere else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There's groups that handle it.
Yeah.
Regional Income Tax Authority is the largest, RETA, who I imagine will probably try and use, and they're actually, I don't think we will we?
I'm
If
sorry.
things continue to move, is it RETA or what? Does the
I
entities
don't know
have
exactly who.
either way, they look at that, and so they look at your address. Okay, there's 2%. There's another half a point or something like that. They're not looking to hammer people that are wanting to work in businesses and things like that. It's not like that.
You get a credit. Basically, there's usually a credit.
Okay. Yeah, I guess our situation, we're 9 employees and we're looking to grow to 90 in the next 18 months, so that's why it's kind of, there's
Yeah, I don't
growth
think-
and now it's taking on extra taxes as a part of their growth. It's kind of an unexpected setback, right? And so
Yeah,
there's
that
just a
makes
lot
sense.
of factors that we need to look into, I guess. So this information is helpful for us. There is sort of an educational process, I guess, that needs to take place, but also timeline understanding, right, from your guys' perspective.
I don't think you're going to have to worry about the JED for a while. For you
Yeah,
personally,
probably not.
I think the focus up front for at least a couple of years is going to be new development and entities that opt in, right, that want to come and be a part of it. Because I think there'll be quite a few. They understand the importance of it, and they want to stay in the township, see this township, succeed in some of the
Right.
bigger businesses where it's net neutral, and they're gonna try and.
Right. And it's not that we're anti any of those things.
I understand
we
that
want to
too.
grow with a
Small
community
businesses have a
together,
different dynamic.
but we have to be able to survive and
That's right.
see through our growth period before that we can.
That's why it's specified some of the more national. It's different when you're a small business. I totally relate to that, and that's what I'm excited about attracting.
Yeah,
small
we are
businesses.
too.
It's
We're
great.
very excited about this project. So that's why this was just kind of, we just wanted to make sure that we could clarify some things because we would prefer to proceed as we've been planning.
Yeah, I don't think that's a problem.
Yeah, it's not a problem.
Okay.
And so most people do pay income tax unless they live and work in a township. most people are already paying income tax, so to somewhere else like you
So
said.
your employees there's a proportion that inevitably will be paying a tax to someone, right?
Right.
So at core, the JED is that when you earn money in the township, instead of that leaving and going to other entities to boost their, infrastructure, it stays here where the money's earned. That's the premise. That's like the founding idea.
Sure.
It is that money stops leaving the township that needs it because it's gotten to this level where
Sure.
levies and stuff are inefficient, right?
Yeah.
And as far as you were commenting on bringing jobs and raising the tax value of the property, understanding township taxes, the impact of that on the township there is an impact, but it's not what a lot of people think. And the reason is when these levies pass, they pass in a way that's more about the dollar amount than the millage, right? So the initial assessment comes up with a millage to obtain a dollar amount. Once that dollar amount's obtained, this board and the board prior made a point to do renewals, not increase, right? As the tax base grows, that dollar amount's distributed across the dividend, it's changing, but the numerator's not, or however you want to put it, right? So the number's going down for each of the homeowners from a levy standpoint, and the businesses, everybody else. So to achieve the 6 million per se, or 10 million per se, it takes less from each contributor, right? So you coming in will actually have a tax benefit on the levies that exist to our tax base. At the same time, when we look at what we have to invest along the way in road improvements and things like that, that's where we've got to find the balance, right? So it's coming in from a county standpoint, totally different. You're looking at sales generation and taxes and stuff, different tax mechanisms. So I wanted to point that out. So just from a township standpoint too.
Sure. I guess one other question sort of related to that is, let's say, for example, we were to construct a $5 million building. I think property tax is around like 2%. That would be $100,000. So I'm not sure exactly how the relationship between Delaware County and Orange Township works, but doesn't Orange Township also receive a percentage of the property tax?
Yeah, you can actually go to the auditor's website and look at that breakdown. And I think what you'll see when you do that is the township's not
Low on the totem pole.
correct.
Okay.
It's like last time I checked, it was like 12% or something like that.
Okay.
Or
The county gets
13%.
most
And
of
all
it.
that goes to the school district,
Schools.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, schools,
Well,
okay.
You help with the
Which
schools. So
you're
that's-
helping with the
great.
schools,
Right.
which is awesome.
Yeah, which will
because
help all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll help everybody. But it's not what you would think for the township is
Sure.
the point.
Very
right?
different than a city.
But we have to look at our partners as well. And as we talk about doing a TIF with the school district, this is an offset to that, right? You're bringing
Mhm.
money in, 90 employees, that's great. It's going to help the schools. So
What's
Sure.
the salary range of the expected employees?
I'd say probably about 10% above the market average. So there will be a mix of manual laborers would be 50 to 60,000, and then number of engineers would be 80 to 100,000 and above.
awesome.
Would there be any sales from the property?
Yeah,
There are sales? Okay.
yeah. That's like the main office. It's existing there. That's a sales and logistics office.
I can come in and buy a battery pack.
If you want to buy 1 million of them, you can.
Is that mostly online, like sales?
Yeah, we sell to like original equipment manufacturers. So we have some new deals in the works with some large
Wholesale.
energy storage integrators. Yeah, like wholesale, so that
So
they
they'll
will
be
install
paying-
them for utility purposes.
So it's not retail sales. It's wholesale.
No.
Okay.
They'll be paying.
I was going to have my boat wired up.
Yeah, actually, we supply to Shore. We still. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So you'll be paying sales tax, so that a lot will go to the county then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
County will get
Sales
for
tax.
It's a
police
win
and
for the
everything.
county.
Yeah, it'll be great
For
for
sure.
the county.
We have a follow up with Delaware County next week as well. We just reached out to them when we heard this news about the JED. Just curious, about if there's anything that they could do to assist, or we were just kind of trying to learn more, I guess, about the relationship between the county and the township. And they said, on issues like this, they're pretty hands off, right? They leave it up to the township. But they do have some other like small business financial incentives programs. So we're working on applying with that. There may possibly be some other small tax abatement of programs we could apply for as
Yeah.
well. So then we can do a cost analysis on, offsetting things.
No one's gonna try and disrupt your ability to run your business, I guess.
Sure. That's good to
At
hear.
least I'm not.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we want to bring tax money to the township, right? And that's, plan of building the new building and then having new employees, so, and the sales, and, but the income tax was a surprise, so.
And so just in our defense, so you guys submitted your application on September 29th, and my understanding is you received an email from our council on October 4th.
Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't receive it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a couple
So
weeks
something
ago.
got lost there. Okay.
Right.
That's what we were concerned. Just they didn't say anything, and then all of a sudden they were concerned.
We
How
didn't-
did you know 6 weeks ago? What happened? Okay. Okay.
So it was actually after the
After the zoning
rezoning commission,
that's when-
it was like a couple days after that Julie reached out again, and that was
Okay.
when we first learned. And we saw that she had sent a message in October, but unfortunately we just didn't see it.
And that's
So-
still not a tremendous amount of time when you already have your plan ready to go,
Right.
but yeah.
So,
Especially when you purchase the building already.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, I myself
Well, we
am
need
looking at
jobs in Orange Town.
personally relocating here as well. From
be good.
Supposed to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if they live and work here, they won't have to pay the income tax too. I personally benefit from that.
Great.
And can we get both of your names for the record?
Yeah, this is our
Address?
general manager, John Wu.
Okay.
John Wu, and I'm project manager, Luke Gallant. Actually, we can leave business cards.
Yeah, that'd be
Okay, that'd be
great.
great, so we have
Thank
your
you.
address for the record. Okay, I
I-
don't think I have any. And just FYI, that property was being used, I know it was kind of, there's a partially vacant lot, but a guy was using it temporarily for like soccer activities, and it was just because it was available and convenient to everybody. So I didn't think that would be a necessarily long-term,
You've got some battery
Situation.
manufacturing happening up the street too.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
They actually do the production lines for battery production.
Thank you.
They may be the ones that we purchase our production.
Thank you, John. Yeah, and they're doing, building a second building
Yeah.
right now. They're growing rapidly in the township.
And there's some big lithium battery recycling companies in Lancaster. So actually, Ohio has really been promoting this, and I think there will be more similar companies coming soon. Yes.
Lancaster.
What did I say, Lancaster? I'm sorry.
I
Thank you for the correction.
I pronounced that wrong.
We did not receive any written public comment for this application. I'm not sure if there's anybody else.
Anyone concerned with the battery manufacturing
public
facility?
comments?
Public comment? No.
Again, it's not actually manufacturing the batteries. That process happens elsewhere. It's just welding the batteries together.
So
Understood.
just assembly,
Correct.
Correct. What do the engineers do that work there?
We have combination of electrical engineers and mechanical engineers. The electrical engineers focus on the battery themselves, the voltage and the amp hours, and then mechanical engineers will focus on the production line.
And when do you think your building will be completed?
Our goal is next October 2023.
Okay, I don't think I have any, I don't have any more questions.
So of our current 10 employees, we have John, our general manager, an accountant, VP of sales and marketing, myself and another project manager, 2 electrical engineers, and a logistics analyst is our
Okay.
current staff. So we'll be adding.
That whole staff came from the PAL area. And stuff.
Correct, and we're now in the office at 79.
You guys playing soccer?
Not yet, but until the spring, I guess we got to open green space.
Got some
but
green space.
It's kind of cold,
We
so
don't like to see our parks
Company
go
picnic.
unused. Okay.
So if I understand the board correctly, the first resolution would be ready for you.
Correct. Yep. Make a motion to approve resolution 22-390, adopting the recommendation of approval of the zoning commission as to zoning application ZON 22-11 of John Wu.
Second?
Trustee Grumbles?
Yes.
Trustee Knapp?
Yes.
And Trustee Faust?
Yes.
You're all set.
thank you guys for your time.
Thank you, welcome. to
If you have
Township.
questions on that, you don't need to go to the county. We'll help you here.
Okay.
Come talk to, we have a wonderful team.
Yeah, Robin's been great.
But they have some certain benefits they can get.
Yeah,
from the
right,
county.
right, right. I understand
They just
that.
don't have anything to do with the JED at all,
Right.
but they can help you with maybe.
Don't worry too much. We'll partner with you. We want to be good partners, okay?
Thank you very much, good luck.
Thank you.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
I think that's,
It's a good question. If you can just give me.
Pull a fast one.
All right. Next application up today is zoning application 22-10. Is it ALDEIA? ALDEIA? ALDEIA, okay. And I know I had a couple of requests to meet. I don't know who that came from. I'll let you all in. Okay. And once a zoning application starts going through the formal process, for me, it's just a best practice that I don't interact. I try to respect the integrity of that. Not that you were trying not to, but it's my own position. Sometimes applicants will reach out before the ball gets going, and I'm happy to meet with them. And typically what I'll do is have a conversation and say, look, there's a process. You get the application into our zoning department. We'll go through that and see where things shake out. I learned the hard way about that because I don't want to meet prematurely or give an indication to anyone, and you know, it just works better that way. So I wasn't trying to be a jerk or ignore you. I did want to explain that though. I just try and respect that formal process. Okay. All right, Mr. Duffy, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Grumbles. This is rezoning case ZON-22-10. The applicant is Black Opal Properties, LLC. They are requesting to rezone 4 parcels totaling 40.664 acres from a farm residential district, or FR1, to single-family planned residential district, SFPRD, for the use of a single-family cluster housing community with 158 cluster homes and 4 estate lots that would front on Lewis Center Road. The property is surrounded on 4 sides by residential. To the north is FR1 and other single-family planned residential districts. To the south is also farm residential and SFPRD, which is vacant land, and the Slate Ridge SFPRD as well. To the east is farm residential and the old Lewis Center Village. To the west would be also farm residential, and then just beyond that, the Lewis Center Ravines single-family planned residential district. The 2018 comprehensive land use plan. This property is located within sub-areas 9 and 13. The proposed land use map labels part of this site as single-family residential, and the other part is designated as single and double-family residential. On the next page of the staff report, you can see their concept plan there. So the green portion of the site would be sub-area A, which would contain the 158 cluster homes. Sub-area B would be the pink portion in the northwest, which are proposed to be 4 estate lots. Again, that would front off of Lewis Center. The primary access for sub-area A and the cluster homes would be off the Green Meadows Drive extension. Again, there are 162 total lots, meaning a total density of 3.98 dwelling units per acre. This is a divergence that is requested from the single-family planned residential district, where the maximum density permitted is currently 2 dwelling units per acre. The SFPRD would not permit non-residential uses other than the potential recreational facilities on site. All recreational uses should maintain a 100-foot setback to all exterior development boundaries. Another divergence that is requested, the applicant has requested that a sales or rental office, which is normally a conditionally permitted use, be classified as a permitted use in this district by right, which again triggers a divergence to have it be permitted instead of conditionally permitted. In terms of development standards, essentially there's 2 different sets of development standards, one for sub-area A containing the cluster homes, and then separate development standards for the 4 estate lots in sub-area B that would front on Lewis Center Road. Structure separation, this is for sub-area A, is proposed to have a minimum separation of 12 feet from one principal structure to another principal structure. The lot widths, although they will not be true lots, this is intended to be designed and built as a condominium project that would not be traditional fee simple lots, which triggers a few other divergences that I will discuss in a moment. So there will be a total quantity of 70 units with 32 feet lots, 38 units with 36 feet lots, 30 units at 43-foot lots, and then 20 units at 46-foot wide lots. A divergence is requested for lot depth as well, as there will not be individually platted lots within the proposal. Proposed development would comply with lot coverage standards, and the proposed square footage for each unit would be 1,000 to 2,200 square feet. In terms of architectural elements, the proposed development notes that cementitious siding, smart siding, brick veneer, vinyl, stone, and stone veneer shall be permitted as primary exterior facade materials. Permitted trim materials would include wood, PVC, vinyl, cementitious trim, and aluminum. Accessory improvements such as patios, decks, and privacy fencing would also be permitted for each unit. In terms of open space, the total open space proposed is 12.201 acres, or exactly 30%, which exceeds the minimum requirement, which would be 8.133 acres, or roughly 20%. Lighting.
Does that include the estate lots?
Yes, that includes the entire property. Lighting, subarea A would comply with the standards laid out in section 21.12 of the Orange Township zoning resolution. Street lighting is approved with the development. Plans would be presented to zoning for administrative approval, but they would need to comply with Article 21. In terms of parking, both off-street parking options are offered as well as on-street. There are 89 on-street parking spaces proposed. That I believe the plan is to have those be on one side of each street, which would be the opposite side of the street as any fire hydrants that would go in. Required off-street spaces for single-family plan residential district is 4 spaces per dwelling unit, which would be met. I believe each unit is proposed to have a garage and then spaces in the driveway count towards that requirement as well. Proposed internal streets would be private. They are proposed to be 26 feet wide on pavement with parking limited to one side. On-street parking is labeled as at 8 feet in width, leaving 18 feet remaining on the internal street. And again, no parking signs would be included in the development, with details shown during final engineering on the opposite side of any fire hydrants. For signage, divergence is requested to allow monument signs designed in accordance with the submitted graphic exhibit and located in accordance with the site plan. Again, monument signs traditionally a conditionally permitted use. They are requesting a divergence to have it be a permitted use in this district. In terms of access, 2 full access points are proposed from the Green Meadows Drive extension to the 158 cluster homes. Again, the internal streets would be private streets. The applicant has committed to connecting the multi-use path along Green Meadows Drive extension to the roundabout at Lewis Center Road for that trail connectivity in that area. In terms of divergences, they are requesting a number of divergences. From section 10.03, permitted uses. Again, this is traditionally a conditionally permitted use. They are requesting that it be a permitted by right for a divergence to permit a sales or rental office within a permanent structure, such as a clubhouse or community building. So from a divergence from section 10.06D for the requirement of a plat, the applicant requested a divergence to waive the plat requirement. Subarea A is a condominium development which does not provide the individually platted lots, rendering that plat requirement not necessary. A divergence from section 10.07A and A1 development standards in terms of intensity of use. The applicant requests a divergence to increase the maximum gross density from 2 dwelling units per acre to 4 dwelling units per acre. A divergence from section 10.07A1, again, development standards, intensity of use. The applicant requests a divergence to increase the maximum units on any single acre from 3 dwelling units per acre to 12 dwelling units per acre. A divergence is requested from section 10.07C through E and G. Building setback, lot width, side yard setback, and rear yard requirement. The applicant requests a divergence to waive these development standards. Subarea A is a condominium development which does not provide individually platted lots. The applicant proposes that subarea A be developed in accordance with the typical lot configuration exhibit. Section 10.07F on section 21.09 building setback regulations. The applicant requests a divergence from these provisions for for the minimum building setbacks from roads, the applicant proposes that sub-area A be developed in accordance with the typical lot configuration exhibit, which provides a minimum building setback of 20 feet from load-directed roads and 4.5 feet from non-load-directed roads. Porches would be exempt and may encroach into the minimum building setbacks along the front. Section 10.07J for signage, requesting a divergence to allow monument signs designed in accordance with the submitted graphic exhibit and located in accordance with the site plan. Again, that is usually a conditionally permitted. They are requesting that it be permitted by right. And a divergence from section 21.03, structure separation. Applicant requests a divergence to reduce the minimum structure separation, proposing that sub-area A be developed in accordance with the typical lot configuration exhibit, which provides a minimum building separation of 12 feet between principal structures. I would say that we as staff are generally supportive of the divergences for lot standards and setbacks, as condominium style development is not necessarily accounted for within the single-family plan residential district requirements. Again, it's just not something that is accounted for within our code. We are supportive of those divergences. In terms of technical agencies and their reviews, the Orange Township Fire Department has conditionally approved this site layout. The Orange Township Zoning Commission at their meeting on November 15th did vote to recommend denial of this application by a 3-2 vote. The Delaware County Regional Planning Commission recommended conditional approval of this rezoning request at their meeting a few months back. They did list 5 conditions, all of which have been addressed to the satisfaction of township staff. That concludes the staff report. The applicant is here. If the board has any questions, I do believe they have a presentation that they would like to make as well.
Did regional planning have any, what was the vote, unanimous?
I believe, I was not at that meeting. I believe it was not unanimous, but it passed fairly.
I was there, and I think there were a couple people that maybe not vote, but there was no
objection.
no
And
objection.
could you review the land use plan again, how this fit into that?
Sure. So the again, this is in 2 different sub areas within the land use plan. The proposed land use map labels part of the site as single family residential, and the other part as single and double family residential.
Just single and double family residential.
Single, well, double would mean duplexes.
Was there any density specified for that?
I don't believe so. I mean, it would line up with our
County resolution.
yeah.
Okay. I have some questions, but should we have them do the presentation first?
Yep, so
Okay.
we'll let them present, and then the board will ask questions of the applicant. After that, we'll open it to public comment and give everybody 3 minutes to come up and share their comments with the board, and then we'll give the applicant and board a chance to respond to the concerns or comments of the residents. And then we'll try and take a vote. Okay? Introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Jake Dietrich with Onyx Nice. I'm our Vice President of Acquisitions and Development for Ohio. And with me is Annie Richardson from Onyx Nice as well, and Eric Zartman, counsel from Underhill and Hodge. Tonight we have only about a 10-slide presentation because we didn't feel like we needed to regurgitate what was already in our submission documents, but rather wanted to provide a little more color on who we are, why we are proposing what we're proposing at this particular property, and then just explain a few more details about the project. So I guess just to start, we'll introduce ourselves a little bit. So we're a builder headquartered out of Indianapolis. We have an office here, which Andy and I work out of in downtown Columbus. And we started as a company 7 years ago on the premise of creating really thoughtfully placed housing solutions that was actually originally geared towards urban centers. So, traditionally old neighborhoods where we're finding kind of great qualities, senses of place that that are really attracted to people. And as those desires have continued to evolve in that time, we've added a product line that separates from that kind of attached townhome product that we've been known for to a detached single family for rent product that is also carefully designed in a thoughtful way, but more typically in the suburban context. And so with that particular product, we are looking for strong communities like Orange Township that they're desirable places for people to live for different reasons than, for example, a Bexley or some other type of urban neighborhood or city within a MSA core. So if you go to the next slide, this is just a couple of images of some of the attached product that we've built. And then if you go to the next slide, there should be a couple images of existing build for rent or build to rent developments that we have done either here in this market, including one in Berlin Township that should start construction after the first of the year, as well as developments in Indianapolis. And I would just like to provide a little bit of additional color on what this particular product is, in case you're unfamiliar. So much like a condominium community, this is a professionally managed development where individual homes are platted on individual lots, and a common ownership will maintain all of those HOA board seats, if you will, and will properly maintained through an in-house or contracted management company all of the common areas for the community. And so if you were to drive through this, you wouldn't look at it and say, "Oh, this has got to be a rental community," or these are every homeowner is responsible for mowing their grass. So Joe and Lisa have basically tall weeds in their yard, and Tom and Sally love taking care of their gardens. Who's out there plucking grass with scissors. This is all going to have a uniform feel to it. So it's the key difference from other investor-led single-family rentals is that this is a community designed for this purpose. So you don't have these scattered single-family lots that have these detached landlords that are in New York or whatever it is, and nobody can get a hold of them if there's problems. This is a way to provide a rental housing solution different from that frankly isn't being done, at least at any sort of scale in this market right now, though we anticipate that we won't be the last ones to come into Central Ohio doing this. Some of the typical renters that we would see at this would be young couples that might be tired of living in an apartment where they're expecting their first child and want to get themselves a little bit more space. We've also seen more of that type of empty nester who's maybe not at an age that requires single level living, but is at a place in their lives where they want to downsize and they don't know what their next step is. So they're looking to rent in this type of community before they may think about buying in one. And then lastly, through whatever life circumstances might cause a divorce or a separation, where parents would desire to stay within close proximity to their children, they might choose to live in a home like this. Or, as this exhibit shows, as each of these homes would have a private yard space, frankly, people of all types that have pets that just don't want to have to put on their shoes and their coat to let their dog out in the morning. So, again, it's a product type that is looks, smells, and feels like single-family development. It just so happens to be all purposely built to rent. And so as we looked within the township at what areas might be appropriate, we looked at the current land use map. And Michelle, if you can go to the next slide. While it's generally challenging to see the detail on this slide, you can see there from the railroad tracks to 23 is obviously the core of density and the core of commercial activity within the township. And so that's naturally where we focus our search for property. And frankly, as you all know quite well, the amount of property that's available for continued higher density residential development is actually dwindling quickly within this kind of zone of property. And so the 40 acres that are subject to our zoning application are really one of kind of few remaining opportunities we actually thought was maybe the most appropriate location for this type of development as we look at some of the developments that have happened and are planned around us. So if you can go to the next slide, we just took a snippet of kind of what's happening around us. and the densities that we're surrounded by or proposing to be surrounded by. And obviously, you've got a mix of single-family planned residential in here, and multifamily, and even planned commercial ranging from 1.9 dwelling units an acre to over 10 dwelling units an acre. And specifically along Lewis Center Road, you have 3 recent developments that, on average, come out to about 4 dwelling units an acre. So that 4 dwelling units an acre probably sounds very, very familiar to you all as the multifamily planned residential development limitation on dwelling units per acre. That's actually this application, the zoning classification that we started with here. And so that's really what we designed this product to. And as we continue to work with staff, and actually presented once to the Planning Commission before making the change of the recommendation of staff to go to single family, just given the product type seeming maybe more appropriate to be under the single family PRD code. Obviously, Robin read through a long laundry list of divergences required that, frankly, many of those are necessitated by the change. And we recognize that on its face, it looks worse having read those divergences versus the multifamily. But again, we were working with staff and listening to staff on what they thought might be most appropriate from a zoning classification, knowing the PRD zoning code that's been drafted is certainly a fairly narrowly tailored planned unit development classification where it's really limiting in terms of what can be built in our cluster style development, just really isn't accounted for in the code that's there today. So we were kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. And we ultimately chose to go for a vote at the last Planning Commission meeting. And while that was voted down 2-3, we felt like the response was actually favorable to the plan. It's just that 2 commissioners wanted to see the project go through without an additional hurdle, and the others wanted to see this go back to multifamily. So we're here today to just kind of continue the discussion, knowing that I hate to be in this chair when I don't have support of a planning commission. We're thankful to have the support of staff, but really trying to just kind of further this discussion on kind of how we can see this project happen, because we do think it's going to be a positive contribution to the housing stock that's here in the township. So if we can go to the next slide, I'm just going to wrap up here. Sorry, Michelle, go to the slide previous to that. I missed that.
Oh,
Are those renderings real developments?
Yeah,
They are. That's
they
what I
are.
thought.
Yeah.
In
So,
Indiana.
so the circles here, we're just merely showing that we've made some changes based on the Planning Commission and staff comments, just to try to demonstrate to you all that we are willing to work with you to find ways to make this work. I'm not going to talk about each one of those, but we're happy to dive into plan answers or specifics on the plan if you have specific questions for us. So with that, we really appreciate the opportunity to present to you tonight, knowing that this is maybe unusual circumstances for a developer to speak with you in. Just go back up. Sorry, Michelle. And so, again, we're happy to hear any questions or provide feedback as appropriate. So thank you.
Did you say that it was recommended for approval, correct? Zoning Commission?
Recommended denial
Was
2 to 3.
denial?
To clarify, regional planning did recommend conditional approval. Orange Township Zoning Commission recommended denial 3-2.
Okay.
The executive lots are, I'm sorry, I worked ahead. I'm looking at your slides. Can you point those out, Michelle?
point out, I'm
The
sorry.
executive lots
Oh, the state lots, yes.
for a state lots.
Yeah, it's in the pink
That's
here.
it there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's, I assume, the one that has like 4 directions, is that one property?
Yeah, so there's an existing home in the northwest corner of that property that sits on that little pond that's just off of Lewis Center. And then, to be quite frank, we just kind of placed 3 other homes on the property, knowing that these are more of an estate lot where somebody's going to have a custom home that they're going to put just to represent that they would be set back off of Lewis Center Road, similar to.
So you're going to sell them to whoever wants to build it?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the intent of including these in this proposal?
Well, to be quite honest with you, we just thought it was a type of lot that would be desirable for folks wanting to live in the township. It also continues the land use pattern that's directly to our west. Obviously, the sawmill ravines kind of interrupt that, but there is an existing home, including a homeowner that's here today, that is just west of our property line, and we just wanted to continue that feel that was there. That conceivably could be left as just continued open space, but we again felt like it'd be a positive contribution to the township to include 4 lots there.
And this is all floodplain right here, correct?
Yeah, correct. Generally, yes.
I'm sorry, you said there is an existing house?
That's
Is
up
that-
there.
Right here.
Okay, and on, how many acres is that? Is that on the
Just zoom in, you can-
6.8.
2.618, is that?
6.8 6.8 acres is that sub area B. Yes.
Oh, okay, but,
Not 8.91? I think it's the combined, the 2.48 is the existing.
Oh,
home,
okay.
So
see.
and the 6 point, so it's 8.91 acres for those 4 estate lots.
okay, so just, it says, is it 2.42 for the existing house? Right?
That's
Okay.
correct. Yes.
So, do you know what the density would be just for, or the amount of open space for just sub area A? Does anyone know how much open space, like if this was its own development?
The open space calculation is just including what's in green on screen, and so that would be for the.
So that 12 acres-ish is just, it's not in.
So the state lots do not count towards the open space?
No.
Okay.
And just when, and obviously the development is the entire 40.664 acres, which brings you to, with 162 units total, 3.98 dwelling units per acre. If you were to take out the 4 estate lots of the 8.91 acres, that would leave you with 31.754 acres divided by the 158, so that's 4.975 dwelling units per acre. But again, it's all one application, so
Wait,
4.975 if you took out the estate lots.
what's isn't the current density 4?
Current density is 2 for single family, 3 for multi.
4.
But-
They're proposing
four.
3.98.
They're requesting
Right,
3.9.
because that includes the estate lots.
Two
I thought- okay,
two for
okay,
single
okay,
family,
gotcha.
4 for multi.
Thank you.
Sorry, Trustee Knapp.
Okay, so the overall density, including the estate lots, okay, so I think that's why they included the estate lots, because it makes the density go down. That's what is typically done in these cases. Okay, so you said if you took out these 3
Estate lots.
homes, are you talking about just the
4.
3?
I took out 4, all 4 of them, the existing plus the 3 planned.
You took out the pink
The whole
area.
pink area.
Yeah.
But the existing, do you currently own that, or is that part of the parcel?
All 40.664 acres are ones we are under contract to
There's
purchase.
a homeowner there, correct?
Yeah.
There's the existing homeowner that is there today.
Yeah, so
And
I
it-
don't,
And I just
that
want to
might need to get taken out. Oh, go ahead.
I just want to clarify something so the 4 estate lots that we have, that started with trying to save that existing home that is on the northwest corner. We feel like that's a built home that is perfectly habitable and actually is a nice home to live on with that pond. No sense in getting rid of that for the sake of moving that lot to our development. Same thing goes with those estate lots. There's not, other than some plan modifications, we could certainly accommodate those additional 4 lots within our development plan, but we chose to move those 4 lots of that kind of allowed density to estate lots, again, trying to be mindful of what is happening or what is existing on Lewis Center. So, yes, those estate lots help us achieve the 4 units per acre, but that would be the case regardless, I guess, is what I'm saying.
And I'm sorry, how many acres is the overall, or is the multifamily area, or?
So the overall site is 40.6 acres, and the multifamily portion is about 28 of those acres.
Because of the 12 acres
No.
of open space, is that correct?
It's actually, sorry, I was looking at the wrong number.
He can do math in his head.
Yeah.
It's the 31.754 acres is the pink area,
Thank you, Trustee.
including the open space.
Say that again.
31.754 acres.
Is which part of it?
Everything in the green.
In the green, but not the
I think we get this whole.
And-
Everything that's not pink.
Everything's not.
Okay.
And did you give us the? I know you're going to say market value, but is the price to rent these homes? Can you share what that is?
Sure. I mean, market's changing every day, but today we would expect these homes to rent for anywhere between $2,500 to $3,500 a month.
And you shared with us, but it's not on the slides, as far as breakdowns of bedrooms and that kind of stuff. Can you share that?
Yeah, right now we're approximately 50-50 mix between 3-bedrooms and 4-bedroom homes that are drawn on the plan. Though our zoning text accommodate allows for 2 bedrooms as well, and we'll make the decision as we approach whether we'll include 2 bedrooms in the plan.
And then all of the homes have a 2-car garage.
Each home has a 2-car garage and driveway to accommodate 2 cars.
Be a tough one looking at the school numbers because it's kind of a unique, right? I think it would behave more as a single family than it would a multifamily, and then be probably between like a condominium number and a single family number.
Do you know how many children? These are just 2-story. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Do you know how many kids were generated by your other develop? Like, how many more of these developments do you have in other areas?
So we utilize a professional management company that manages thousands of homes across the country. And on average, there's less than 1 child per home in the Midwest and within these communities. And so I'm not going to put my life on it that that's what's going to be here because every community is unique. But on average, you're not adding nearly as many kids as a traditional single family neighborhood. To Trustee Grumble's point, is probably going to be somewhere between a condominium community and.
That's what I was saying. I think it's probably in the middle of the two.
Yeah,
Makes
because
sense
I
why.
think the average for the existing, like the overall average for existing, what is it for new development?
So I reached out to Cooperative Strategies, who's the consultant that the school district uses
Yeah.
for our redistricting. And so she said, like you said, less than 1 per home. It's the single family yield is 0.78 students per home.
That's the average, right? Wait,
Correct.
for new builds?
I don't know about
Or
new builds.
that's overall. Okay.
That is
Overall, single
overall.
family.
So that's
See-
single family. So the 0.78 times
160.
I think they rounded it, yeah, to 0.8. But then
168 is
Ben said-
123 students.
Yeah, and Ben said at the last meeting that the new builds, and I know you sent that information, but the new builds generate more students and the older homes generate fewer, so there's
Because
average.
we move in and we have
I
our
mean,
children
just call it one.
go through the school district and then we stay for a bit.
That'd be my assumption. It'd be 1. Be
Yeah.
3 and 4 bedroom. They're not
So
going to be.
160 kids.
How
Yeah.
many?
158.
It's
Yeah,
it's
and
going
that's
to be.
That's a lot of kids.
And they'll split between buildings, right? Some will be elementary, some will be middle, some will be high.
But that's a lot of money for the school district, a high cost.
I don't have any questions right now. I'm going to go ahead and open a public comment. When you come up, just state your name and address, please, for the record, and then we'll start the timer. And as soon as you hit 3 minutes, I'll slam the hammer on the little piece of wood there and call order. Get ready. Metal flies off, so be careful with that. I've never done that. All right, go ahead.
Nick McCoy, 1201 Franklin Street. I sent trustees and you an email earlier today in opposition to this build. I think the density's been messed with based on open area and then adding in a subsection in the northwest corner to make this seem more appropriate than it actually is. It's another, calling this single family residential is a stretch at best. This is high density housing at its finest. These things are going to be as close as 12 feet apart. So to talk about yards and dogs and pets is not overly feasible unless you're going to have a chihuahua out there and clean it up constantly. understanding that the 2018 comprehensive plan labeled this area as single family and single double family residential is one thing. But I'm going to go back to something that caught my attention. Chairman Grumbles talking about the JED earlier. We are resident heavy right now throughout Delaware County. This just adds to that residence heaviness to this. Personally, I live right across the street. It's a nice corridor when you extend this road, Green Meadows, that's going to be created. Changing it completely and making it commercial makes the most sense to me as a attorney and former engineer. The excitement about the prior applicant and what they're doing out there off of 23 is something that you could see on a smaller scale in this area as well. That I think makes a lot more sense for our community, rather than this constant pounding about a urban development. That's all I have. Thank you.
Sorry, just to point out about the Green Meadows extension, that is in the works with the county right now. I believe they're starting construction this spring.
In the spring, and it's supposed to be done early, end of October. Pending.
Erica just met with them. She knows.
I wrote it down.
And this is a little off topic, but we'll be reaching out to the residents that live nearby this when we start seeing the design and the plans for this. Hopefully in January or early February, we'll have an open house for the residents over here to see what the plans look like for the Green Meadows extension.
I'm hoping that it'll handle a combine, because I know there's still a farmer back there doing his thing. Build that road strong. He's a good guy too.
Mm-hmm.
My name's Bud Abraham, 6205 Stormhaven Court. I was in attendance on the initial zoning application or presentation. I was not present on the second presentation because I was traveling for business. However, I still, again, feel adamant as the previous speaker about the zoning and how the use of that area in pink is used to help with the equation on the occupancy or the number of units per acre. I feel it, as an engineer, it may be proper, but it doesn't meet the eyeball or the smell test. I feel like it's used to benefit the number of units per acre in the area in green, which to me, if I were to look back at it in 5 years, I go, that doesn't look right. The other thing is, I would like to ask the board, and this is not against the developer, again with the board, to get with the county engineer. We've got multiple resident units going in here, along with the park on the big park development that's going off of Lewis Center on the east side of railroad tracks, the park on North Street, which is directly north of this, and the traffic coming in on new Green Meadows, along with Lewis Center. We need to stop. We need to be proactive on the infrastructure development. And again, this is not opposed to you, so don't take, I guess I got a little open forum and a little bit of time, but we need to be a little more proactive on the infrastructure here. We've got a 2-lane road going into a 2-lane road, going into a 2-lane road, going into a 2-lane road around that traffic circle. It's ridiculous. And along with a railroad track, which the county engineer, along with Orange, hasn't done anything with. We're stuck. And it's about time the board start pushing back on the engineer and saying, we need some help.
We are. We've had them come on
Well,
site.
we've been going around. I've been here for 20 years, and we're still stuck in the same damn thing. Pardon my language. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Any other public comments?
I'm Chris Shackroff. We own 25 acres on the south side of this property. It's wooded right now. We're not up here to do anything at this point, but they have asked for a divergence of 5 feet on our setback along our northern property line, and I would be completely against that. Curbler tried to do the same thing with us on the west side, and the board shot it down. And I'd like to ask that this board recognize that and do the same. So, thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Robin, did you say, so you said it was, in the land use plan, single family or double family?
Correct.
Okay. But not multifamily?
Correct.
And so if the density is currently 3.98, how did it, if you include that property in it and take the houses out, how did it go up to almost
So
5?
the way that my brain was working was pulling out the pink. Which
Oh,
is
okay.
8.91.
Okay, but if you added, okay.
If you just do density by sub area, it's probably the best way to look at it, right? So the
Density,
green
okay.
density and the red density, or
So,
pink.
Okay, that's what, okay, so I see what you're saying. And so, but if we added the 6.8 acres plus the other acreage, what would the density be? It's still just a little bit under 4, I guess, because you'd be taking 3, or just 4 houses out. Right, does the 162 units that does,
158 of the cluster development
Cluster,
numbers
okay.
for estate lots.
because I'm pretty opposed to the estate lots.
I can speak to Bud's comment about the other roads in the area, just again from our conversations with the county engineers that came last month, I think, November. So the Home Road extension, and where it intersects with Lewis Center Road on the east side of the tracks, that work is also supposed to be done in 2023, going up to Lewis Center Road. Now, the bridge over the tracks, so that actually makes the road usable, is not, that's probably still 25, 26. It's going to be a ways.
It got pushed back. It was supposed to be earlier. But one of the first things in 2020, when I got here, I went up to the engineer's office, as I committed to doing, and brought them into the township. We had a meeting with them to go over all their projects, the status, and then when Trustee Faust came aboard, had another conversation, and Trustee Knapp came back. So we needed to have another touch base and alignment with the new board. And they came back again a couple weeks ago, talked with us. I will say they've been good at responding. The partnership there is it works both ways, right? You got to water the flower on both sides if you want it to grow. We had a couple of headbutt episodes with former staff and the engineer's office that got in the way for a couple months, and I think we're in a good spot now. The comments I made about funding, it's the main constraint. And you look at the bandwidth of the county as well. They're looking countywide. Harlem and the eastern side townships have really thrown a wrench into things with Intel. Kind of panicked. I think they've learned about this whole proactive thing, right? They've been caught so many times. And I firmly agree with you. We have the big Walnut interchange proposed too, and the reason I'm so strongly opposed to that, I know it's not really feasible anymore, given the engineer's comments right now anyway, it's years and years away. The reason I oppose that is because exactly what you said, it dumps traffic into our exposed side, as I call it, where we haven't spent any money, any time, and would be a complete disaster for our community. We have enough right now. We have enough. So we've got phases and things starting to address a lot of that. And with the economic development agreements underway, it's going to give us the resources. What I always try to do in operations or management is to push the constraint out. So the township's no longer the constraint, right? Hey, we're sitting here, we got money, we got funds, let's go, right? And then it changes that dynamic. It always has, every experience I've been in. And so that's the whole premise behind these efforts, is so that we push the constraint outward and say, hey, can we use these funds to supplement engineering so we can have plans kicked off and have we actually just signed an agreement to have project management support because we're doing projects faster than we can manage them. So all of that is happening. I can assure you. We brought Silas Bowers over, and he's running the department now for the past year and a half or so, and he's a go-getter. So we'll stay on top of that. As far as this application, I can appreciate the product, and I understand the demand, understand the need for it. I don't think it's a fit here. I think that the divergences are indicative of that. The divergence after divergence after divergence. I do understand that with the dynamic we have right now, the rental market's going to go berserk, and that's something that'll shift and go back and forth in time. But as far as this goes, that's my personal position on it. I don't care about the lot stuff. I think in general, the way it's constructed, and we look at our zoning, I tap into the general welfare, I guess, part of it more than anything, and look at our zoning in the past, and you start tacking on that many divergences. I think that's indicative of needing to pause and look at this. But I think it's a nice product. I do. I think it's a great product. Understand the market for it. Question the fit. Do you have any comments, Trustee Faust? Trustee Knapp?
Yeah. How much of the property, like, is there any ravine in here, or there's a ravine, right? That's a ravine. So if this were to actually be developed as single family, like the entire parcel, not including, because I assume the existing house is nice and they would not want to wreck it down, correct? The existing home?
I think everybody has different definitions of nice, but I think it's perfectly fine.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if the 6.8 acres plus the 32 were developed, Robin, do you have any idea how many single-family houses, if this were developed in accordance with the land use plan?
Well, if it were developed according to code, it's 40 acres, you would get 80 homes.
Yeah, but can it?
It's not all.
But it is not all developable now. There's a 100-foot buffer on either side of that stream, plus terrain changes.
So maybe 60
Yeah.
or so?
Maybe.
My guess is that 12% of the open space, for the most part, is non-buildable. There's some open space within the development, so maybe 10 acres is non-developable. So if the whole thing is,
I was thinking it'd be 20, you'd be at 40 something there, plus the plot to the top left, you could get a couple in.
it's pretty steep, I think.
Do you think 50 could be built?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the red, right? I think you're looking at traditional single family down here.
Yeah.
20 acres.
Okay, so maybe in a
But
few.
you've got to remember, you've got your green space requirements for a single family too, right?
Yeah,
So
20%.
40 is the high end, and then you've got the plot up atop with terrain.
Yeah.
It's very, I'm familiar with the area. It's pretty, yeah.
Is it pretty hilly?
It's slopey,
Okay.
yeah.
So we're going from maybe 40 or 50 single families?
50's a stretch.
50. Okay, so somewhere between 40 to 50 to 100 and maybe 158, not including the existing single family, and that's pretty substantial. That's triple.
I also think I'm hearing conceptualizing what development would be. There's not to say that development can't be done at 2 units per acre, even with those ravines. That would not be out of the question. I guess, yes, you could say, okay, everybody has acre lots or 3/4 acre lots, and you're going to stay out of all of the slopes. Yeah, maybe you do get down to that. But I think, and I hear you, Trustee Grumbles, on not feeling like this is appropriate. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say, what can we do to make this more appropriate? And there's a question here that I want to, and I'm sorry, Trustee Knapp, I
No, go ahead.
totally
Go
cut
ahead.
you off
No.
on your conversation.
I was going to get to that anyway.
Okay. So there's the question of, we filed this plan as under multifamily originally. Within that multifamily text, we established limitations that would require this property to be developed as single with this style of development. It's not that if we zone it to multifamily that somebody could just go ahead and build 3-story apartment buildings, obviously, right? So we've set those benchmarks and those curbs in place and those gutters in place to design a product like this. And so for us, whether this is single family or multifamily, to be honest with you, we don't have a preference. Depending on it's more dependent on what the trustee's preference would be.
I think the density is, there are a lot of divergences because I personally would be against it, multifamily detached. I think that's an oxymoron.
Yeah,
how can you have multifamily detached, which is why we took it out of the code a few years ago. Is it still out of the code?
Yes.
Okay, we took that out because I thought that was kind of ridiculous. Like in 2018, we took it out.
Mm-hmm.
But, so I understand how many divergences you would have to have because of that. That makes sense. But I'm thinking the density is probably our primary concern.
Yeah, if we're being candid, I think, you look at that and yes, you could build it. The site development, I think, would be pretty substantial. Not for me to say or do, but just looking at that property, the terrain and things like that. I don't know. I can't sit here and tell you what I would approve without seeing it, I guess, and looking at the details and the total application. Similar to what I said earlier, right? There's a process,
Right.
And so I would be out of place to divert around that process.
And
I understand that, and I'm telling you, I see the amount of work you put into it,
Right.
and I don't want to take away from that at all. I think the homes look great. There's a market for them, and I just think in this particular situation, it's the square peg and the round hole type thing, right? There's a lot of concern on infrastructure, the general welfare clause, and for purposes of not getting myself into a pickle, I'm going to leave it at that. It's general welfare, right? It's this collective. I believe that's the verbiage when I look at this.
Page 4, yeah.
The general standards of the nonconformity of the comprehensive plan does not advance the general welfare of the township in immediate vicinity. That's really where I'm strongest leaning. There's areas that predate my existence that you surfaced with density and everything. I personally would have objected to a lot of those as a board member. I wasn't here for that. But that's where I'm at. I look at each application unique and the situation, the dynamic of the surround, where things stand, and since I've been a board member, and so it's not just a flat out, I'll never approve this or I'll never approve that type thing. I look at the circumstances, the true general welfare of the township, and where things are, location, a big part of it.
Maybe closer to 23, it would be more appropriate, although I don't think we have anything available over there. But so this would it would cost about $2 million per year for the school district to educate the kids there at 158 kids approximately. Might be a few less. It's about, $12,000 a kid, I think. Yeah. So that creates a tremendous tax burden on, the rest of the residents. So every new child that comes in just increases our tax burden. So that's a real struggle. Like we recently approved some empty nester style homes that, really no yards and no kids are going to want to ever live there. So that's where I struggle too, is it's the density and the trips in and out and the cost of the school district and subsequently the cost of the taxpayer. I might be more willing to consider it if it were more like 3 units an acre, kind of a compromise between multifamily and single family, but I doubt that would fit within your I don't know if that would be economically viable or how the other board members would feel, because I do think it's an interesting product. And remind me, how much would the rental be?
25 to 35. that what
Okay.
you said?
So you're gonna, it's,
A
it's,
premium rent, yeah.
yeah, it'll be a nice product. You'll have, people, people, I mean, you're not gonna be slumlords. It's gonna be a
Right.
nice place to live, and it's very beautiful. And I do see a product. I mean, it is hard sometimes to live in a community where everyone has, $500,000 house. Not everybody can afford that, and regular folks a lot cannot. So I do see a need for maybe this type of housing, even though it is rental, possibly. And we do have some apartments that are coming in. So I kind of see a somewhat of a need at this, but the 162 is just, it's just way too high for the number of kids generated. So do you feel anything
I
different
agree with
about,
what-
would you be willing to accept a lower density or?
If it falls significantly closer to the code. I mean, we're held by the code, so.
So
I don't know how you feel about that.
we want to get this to at least like an octagonal peg in a round hole, and an octagonal peg that's slightly smaller in diameter than the round hole. So obviously, you're right. There are limitations within kind of our economic pro forma on how to get this deal work. And I don't have a path forward to get a test to get down to 2 units an acre. But if I look at the land use map and I see maybe you approved it or maybe you didn't approve it, but what's happened around us in terms of density, and we're seeing 3 plus whatever that, plus or minus whatever that is, maybe we can roll up our sleeves, figure out a way to try to reduce the density and come back to you with something that is maybe a little more palatable, understanding that there are there's maybe opposition to the estate lots, at least in kind of how it's juxtaposed with the cluster style development. I kind of hear that loud and clear. I would ask that, we could not call for a vote tonight, but that we would continue this and allow us to try to figure something out. Because again, we have an interest in making this project happen, and would request that ability to come back to you all. Maybe it's not in 2 weeks, maybe it's not in a month, but at some point in the near future, if we can come up with a solution that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean,
What do you think about that?
Well,
Right, if they could,
yeah.
real quick, this white piece of property, who owns that piece that's?
It's a
it's a
house.
separate home.
Yeah,
Okay, then.
I know,
Yeah.
it's the
Would
white,
you
the
be
white
willing?
home.
Yeah, is it,
Yeah,
okay,
it's
so
a-
they had no interest in selling.
So,
They asked us, but it's an owner occupant, and we don't have the use for that property.
It's probably gonna be too expensive with the house on it anyway. 'Cause
Yeah.
that would add some more green space, but then you'd probably have to wreck it down.
So
Would you be willing to consider more like 3 units an acre?
I'm not going to commit to anything. If the applicant wants us to extend the courtesy of coming back to the board and with a completely different proposal, I mean, that's where I look at something and, I mean, how much change is viable at this point, right? Doesn't it need to essentially go back through the process? I mean, we have the zoning commission and everything for a reason, right? So if we're going to make go ahead.
Legally, it wouldn't need to go back. You could, if there were changes that the board was proposed to entertain, and if those changes were changes you would be proposed to entertaining. No, it does not need to go back to the.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to substantially change it, I would be opposed to cutting the legs out from under the zoning commission that way. That's just my personal perspective. I think we have them for a reason, and they can opine on an application and vet it as designed. That's just how I am from a process standpoint and what I've learned.
But they can come, so what they could do, but I don't want to give false expectations. I mean, if you think it's worth a shot, I would be okay with tabling it if you two are to give another chance. But I would want these estate lots out in the one property, and
So out, do you mean out as in not included in the application?
well, included in the application, but developed as part of the. No, there would be no future development on it. It would be open
Open
space.
space.
So
Yeah,
we can
take 'em
maintain
out.
the existing home.
Yeah,
that's
except for
there.
leave that. Yeah, leave
Yeah.
that out completely. And that would not be a part, and then include the 6.8 acres as part of this development, as part of the open space. Because the advantage to that is it would create a nice vista versus if it's open.
A
So you're
vista.
thinking it's more of a buffer
A buffer, yeah.
from Lewis
Oh.
Center?
Yeah, versus if someone came on there and I don't know how the topography is, but I don't know how many homes they could build, but having 3 or 6.
I'd like to see can you pull up a vista? I just,
It goes down. I'm not.
That's correct.
Down.
You can look at the terrain map and see.
But that could be one
It
advantage.
slopes
is-
down towards the pond on both sides, right?
Yeah, but no houses looks better than houses. You know, it would give like a little bit of a buffer to the development versus them coming back and a single family homes being built
Yeah,
on.
I'm
Even
not
if
gonna
it's
commit
three.
to approving anything based on, well, if you get it to 3, I'm approving it or anything.
Oh,
Like, I
no,
wouldn't
but-
do that.
but
we're
I
not
don't wanna
asking
waste
If you
their-
want to take a swing at the
I don't
application,
want to waste their
Is my
time.
assumption
either.
that you want to just table it because you don't want to pay the additional fee of filing it again? Is it a cost thing, or because I feel like it
A
needs
cost and time. It could
And
be
time.
6 more months. It could be 4 to 6 months. So what I've seen before is an applicant could come back with a new plan and they could just like, for example, lop off. Now I strongly object to the variance, like Mr. Chakoff was saying, that would need to go away. The houses need to be farther away. But they could just come and lop off, for example, all of these units here.
but not actually spread them out at all.
Yeah, or spread them out, but I think if they came back with a plan that was substantially similar, but with fewer units, we could consider it. Because I wasn't the main objection from the zoning commission, the density.
yeah, I'm not
I
gonna,
think, I'm sorry, Ben.
go ahead.
I think that the zoning commission felt that they were, how do I say this? They were more willing to go the multifamily route because it matched the density, as opposed to what our impression, our staffs and hearing from everybody else. Going the single family route made more sense because the product is single family
Right.
home.
I would have never agreed with multifamily.
Yeah, me
So,
either.
And
But would they have approved if it was multifamily? Or I guess it's hard to tell.
It's hard to tell. Yeah.
What was the vote again?
3-2.
Okay, so it
Or
might have,
2 yes, 3 no.
it might have been enough to swing.
I'm not gonna
Yeah.
pretend that I know. I'm not, if you wanna, I'm not committing to anything. If you wanna take a look at this, I'll extend you the courtesy as we've done prior applicants, right? I'm not gonna tell you that you can't take your product back and take another swing at it for the board to look at. My position on it, though, as I've said, is if it would substantially have to change for me. If that happens, I would prefer that it goes back through the zoning commission. I'm a strong proponent of this process that we have, and I want to respect their position. I know it's not legally required.
Well, I think the board would have to make a decision today,
I understand
and then
that.
it would go back.
It sounds
to-
like my 2 peers would be okay with you tabling and coming back. I'm on the fence. It's a majority rule in a township, right? So,
Well, I don't see how it can hurt. if
yeah,
it came back with
we've allowed other people to do it. I'm just telling you my personal position, right? 1 of 3.
I do have a question on the open space since we've been talking about that. Is there any, so it seems like all the open space is passive for the most part, correct? Is there any active, I mean, could there be a park or pickleball or I don't know, some type of
Yeah,
recreational
maybe.
uses?
There's actually walking trails throughout that passive space, and
Okay.
we've added additional kind of physical amenities, whether it's a playground or others within that open space as well.
There's a pool, there's a playground, and a clubhouse.
I guess if this were, where's my, if this were to become more open space, is there an opportunity for that to have any type of
Yeah.
recreational uses?
I'm sure there's an opportunity. We would have to look at the grading and figure out, how do we get people over there, if they have to go over the river and through the woods, so to say. But certainly we can look at that.
So can I continue this to a time and date to be determined? Table it to?
I think you can as long as you re-advertise. Is that correct?
So if you continue to a time, date, place certain, you do not have to re-advertise. That's the difference between tabling and continuing.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I would say the
Do you have
ball's
a
little bit in
date?
your court.
Yeah, you have a date in mind?
Well, I was gonna say, have you heard, you've heard some pretty substantial asks as far as something to be changed, potentially. So is that something you're interested in pursuing?
Sorry, ask the question again. Are we wanting to provide a date certain for us to come back?
Do you want to come back?
We want to come back. We do not have a date certain on which we would be coming back by.
I would rather re-advertise anyway.
But we can't, is it correct that we can table it indefinitely and then re-advertise?
Yes, you could do that. I mean,
Okay,
it just
until they
depends.
ask.
You could do that.
Okay.
I mean, or you could continue it for 3 months, 2 months, 3 months.
Yeah. Would you rather that we set, we will have to
Yeah, it's just
re-advertise.
gonna be costs for advertising.
How much does it cost to advertise?
It depends on the amount of residents.
Yeah,
we have to send.
$110 plus postage.
He's got it.
Yeah, not too bad.
I personally, I mean, it is ultimately up to the applicant and the board. I would recommend the tabling.
To it mean and not an indefinite tabling,
No,
Time
it's so
and date.
indefinite tabling, and then the applicant
Oh,
can,
indefinite.
can inform us when they are ready.
Yeah.
And
I
just to
would-
speak my perspective on the wooded lot, and just I have a different perspective than Michelle. I have no problem with just wood space. My house backs up to the woods, and it's go run in the woods and climb trees, children. So
For the pink
For-
space? Or
yeah.
So you'd
Yeah.
rather have it as more.
And
I'm okay with either. I'm just saying.
I
my
like the
perspective.
open space better as a buffer because it could be a vista. But maybe you could still add some more opportunities though around the around in the area for things. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's tough. I don't want to waste your time coming back either. But I definitely not in favor at this density. If you can bring it closer to single family, because in the land use it wasn't going to be multifamily anyway. But maybe a compromise.
So recognizing that all of you still have a full agenda to get through, I think we've heard, and we thank you for the commentary to at least give us some sort of heading on how we can revise this. And we'll come back not with the expectation that we're going to be welcomed with open arms, but with kind of a further discussion. And we anticipate probably not, well, we'll figure out and we'll work with staff on when the right time is based on where our plan sits. So
Yeah, it would
I
just
don't
be
think we have any.
pending until then, and
Yeah,
just
until
be
you would put, I mean, so if they table it tonight, until you sort of reinitiate the process to ask them to put it back on their docket for a public.
and they
Sure.
would notify the neighboring property owners that would be part of that, correct?
Renotice it,
Okay.
just like you did the last.
Yes.
So how would that motion read?
So does someone move to table
I
application?
can do that.
Okay.
The reason I wanted to tell the gentleman in the back, though, once we ask about final public comment, that's when it closed.
But we can't.
So I'm fine with you if you have something you'd like to add before we vote. If you want to come on up, I'll reopen public comment. That's why I was telling you not to.
but we can open it back
Yeah,
up.
that's what I'm doing.
Okay.
Yep, you can come. No, you're not. I didn't even reach for it. You were good.
I'm Doug Wenzel, and we're, I guess, the estate lot just to the west of the property. So, of the whole project, we would really like the estate lots next to us on Lewis Center Road. Across the road, there are estate lots, both ways. So, for the better welfare of the township, for us, it would be better for
Estate lots.
to stay in the front.
Little buffer.
Yeah, and a lot of that is unusable. They got the creek. It'd be real expensive to get a bridge across the creek. I believe there are sewer issues on the estate lot property. So how to get it is a lot of work, a lot of trouble. But that's just my 2 cents.
You mean over the ravine?
There's
Yeah,
not
over the
sewer
ravine.
on that pink area.
Oh, there's no sewer.
There's a big elevation change from the
Huge.
road to the floodplain and the flood zone or flood area. So that, I think, is going to limit the location of those,
I agree.
of those estate lots. So
I think what we've got to do is just call it what it is, right? It's one project. And this is just my opinion. I know you submitted it as 2 sub areas and a collective lot. I know legally that's what your application's for. I personally view it as one, the green area. For me, the estate lots and everything it don't even factor into anything into my decision at all outside of the legal requirement for me to consider it.
Mhm.
I view it as the green spot. That's the concern that I have, right? So if you ever want to leave trees and acreage in the township alone, you won't hear any opposition from me. So the red area, great. The green area, I think, is what you're hearing pushback on, right? So I just want to clarify my personal position on that. So I'm fine with it.
So
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Wenzel, I'm sorry. Did you say you live in the?
It's right
You live, oh, to the west of the estate
Yes.
A
lot.
long, long driveway.
Yes.
Red brick
Yeah.
house?
Oh, okay.
I knocked twice, they weren't home, but you got my literature, 2019, I remember.
No campaigning. No campaigning.
I'm not campaigning, I just remember the house. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, and I would be interested in knowing how many single family, if you have like an engineer, of course you would be maybe not objective in your projection, but I would be interested in knowing how many single family homes could be built on that property if it was developed, if you
So
have.
more of the traditional single family.
Yeah,
two
because
per acre.
this will develop sooner or later. And a lot of times with us, it's not like it's gonna stay wide open, and so I try to look into the future, and I think a lot of times people want it to stay green, but you know, as I know personally from property being developed right behind me right now after 20 years of living there, sooner or later everything in the township is developing for better or for worse. So we have to recognize that, but that doesn't mean we also have to put 158 units on it. There's got to be some kind of something that might work. So I mean, there's no guarantees, but it will develop sooner or later, and it's a question of how. So yeah, I would less density, closer to the single family. But
I know that you're trying to cut me off here, but I think just to be clear, we propose a single family lots because we thought that's how that property should be developed.
Oh, yeah,
not only
no.
today, but in the
We
future,
never-
right? So protecting that future return of this, right? Somebody's going to say, okay, that wasn't
true.
developed, right? So
That's true. There
we're
would
almost
be single
protecting that
family, yeah.
land.
unless they
By doing
rezoned
that.
it, but at least it would set a precedent for single family. But yeah, if it was wanted to be proposed as multifamily, I never would have even considered it. So does that help at all?
It does help.
Then?
Thank
Okay.
you. Mhm.
So
Ready?
Yeah.
Make a motion to approve resolution 22-391, tabling application ZON 22-10 until further notice,
or indefinitely.
indefinitely.
Okay.
Second.
Trustee Grebels?
Yes.
Trustee Faust?
Yes.
And Trustee Knapp?
Yes.
I have a resolution to adjourn the zoning hearing.
Because we had a separate zoning hearing,
Okay.
and then we'll go into regular session.
All right, make a motion to approve resolution 22-392, meeting adjournment.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
A second?
Second.
Trustee Grebels?
Yes.
Trustee Knapp?
Yes.
And Trustee Faust?
Yes.
Maybe a dog park. Maybe find a little dog park. That would be popular. Even though I know
So
they
sorry.
are.
I was like,
A dog park larger than like
All right, we're going to resume our meeting this evening. Call the regular trustee meeting to order now. Ms. Bonnie, you want to call roll again?
Yes, Trustee Grumbles.
Here.
Trustee Knapp.
Here.
Trustee Faust.
Here.
And Ms. Kraft was unable to attend, so I will do my best to do roll call.
Get your numbers.
And get my numbers in check.
There you go. So we previously had our zoning hearing this evening. And tonight we're going to move into the regular orders of business. I do see some agenda changes. The one I have question on though is the TIF. Do we make any progress there?
We are working pretty closely with both the school district and Delaware Career Center, but it looks like those hearings won't be until January now, end of January, so we don't need to do the notices at this time.
Okay.
Yeah.
But as far as the subject matter, the conversation was okay? Okay, good. All right.
And then as far as the other agenda changes go, I think moving forward, we'll start adding just announcements as part of the agenda, just so if people want to, if any of the board members want to share things that are going on. So that was something Trustee Faust requested, so we can add that. And then under zoning report, I do have an unfortunate zoning board resignation that we'll need to talk about. And then under fire, we need to rescind a resolution pertaining to the medic. And yes, as mentioned, we'll remove the TIF notices off the administrative report as we are not ready for that yet.
Okay. I'm fine with having any announcements from board members. I think that's great. My pen broke, so I'll do. No, it's okay. I'll do the best I can. I'll just push. Oh, you do? All right, you're prepared. No, thank you. I've got pens.
You need a purse. I got 20 pens.
What's that?
I need a purse. I got 20 pens in there.
All right, back to business. Calling this meeting to order. I already did that. I'll do it again. Any announcements that you
I
would
have
like?
lots of announcements.
Okay, go ahead.
So
Do your
excited.
thing.
I've been out in the community. Okay, so today I got to participate with Chief McNeil, the Lewis Center Kroger grand reopening ceremony this morning. So that was pretty ribbon cutting, all exciting. So just wanted the community to be aware that was a $2 million renovation that they did over this fall. Open and for the next 3 days, so through Friday, gas at the Lewis Center Kroger is 20 cents off per gallon.
Ooh.
Wait till when?
Through Friday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Get your gas.
Chief, do the vehicles take diesel?
Okay, next is
Not joking. Fill them up.
some of you know I volunteer with Meals on Wheels through SourcePoint, and we have a number of vacancies routes here recently where our Sunbury area is growing so much that they've had to split our routes, specifically my route, into 2 different routes. So we're looking for 2 additional drivers to drive on Mondays, one on Monday, one on Tuesday, and then one on Wednesday. They're varying routes. They're all about an hour-ish of delivering and meeting with community members up there who are amazing, wonderful people and so much wisdom, and I've loved getting to know them. And so there's more availability if anybody wants to volunteer. Normally it's a 10:30 to 12 o'clock kind of thing once a week. It's a great opportunity. And then there's another route that should open up the Hoover Reservoir area. But all these routes, you will go get your meals from Sunbury, so you don't have to go to SourcePoint. You go right to Sunbury, deliver, and drop them off in Sunbury. So it's a little bit saves. For me, it seems faster than having to.
Can we share that on our page?
I gave Sydney the flyer, and she's going to put it up this week.
That's great.
Super excited about that. And then our third announcement is here with the township. We have our Orange Township Light Fight, which we had, I think, 12 families submit their homes. So we're super excited for that. So the route should be published in the next couple days, and that's just an opportunity for community members to go around and look at the lights, and we're going to provide you an order of maps as far as go first, second, third, and then we can vote. So the voting will be through the 9th through to the 31st, and then trustees will announce that in January.
Okay. I predict the winners in our neighborhood.
Okay.
It's your soccer
I predict the winners.
No, it's your soccer friend. I know.
Really?
Did you see their house? Oh,
There's a really awesome one on Cold Harbor.
this one went hard in the
I'll have to
paint.
go check that out.
Go check them out. And there's a category that's trustee trustee choice. So
All right.
3 of us get to them.
Ooh.
Super exciting.
I know how you're gonna.
They got the music coordinated and like all these giant displays.
Goodness.
Cool. Hopefully they're on the route. I don't know. Yeah.
I'm sure.
Oh
they
yeah,
are.
they might not be on their
I
app.
bet they're on the
If you don't
route.
submit, you're not on.
Oh wait.
If you don't submit, you're not legit.
That was all the announcements I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you
Very,
for
very
those lovely
exciting.
announcements and your engagement in our community.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jessica.
You're welcome.
Any other agenda changes to discuss?
I do not.
Okay, consent agenda questions?
None.
I see we got the quality control inspection on here. So in the zoning meeting for transparent, I like to talk about the consent agenda briefly, just so people don't think we're trying to pack it full and go through. But that was where I talked about having assistance with project management because we're moving at a quick pace here and have a lot of pretty substantial projects ahead of us. So then we have AEP.
I had a question on that one. Michelle, can you clarify what that one is? The AP one?
Electric bill for
Yeah, it really is just the electric bill. And I talked to the fiscal about this. With utilities, we don't typically have a backup item, but it was a higher cost, so it needed to go on the.
What happens when you have all those lights at the holiday party?
Right.
And then
Which was really fun.
since we're talking about all 3 of them, I do have notes for the 20,000 blanket, and that is a healthcare change for the fire department. So they use our expenses for change collecting the fire and EMS services charges on behalf of the township and should come out of this revenue. So
Okay.
if that makes any sense, but it is,
Good.
okay.
Thank you.
All right. No other questions. I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 22-393, approving the electronic record of the proceedings from the regular meeting held on November 21st, 2022. Resolution 22-394, approving purchase orders, then and now purchase orders, and blanket purchase orders as listed in the consent agenda.
Second.
Trustee Grumbles?
Yes.
Trustee Knapp?
Yes.
Trustee Faust?
Yes.
All right. Back to you, sir.
We just keep coming back for more.
That's right.
All right, on the zoning hearings and meetings report, we did have a zoning commission meeting yesterday evening. There were no cases on that agenda, but we used it for organizational purposes to approve minutes and to give them an update on our zoning resolution rewrite project. We also had a speaker come in from the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission, giving the zoning commission an overview of growth in Central Ohio and housing trends as well. So we will share that presentation out with you 3 as well, and may look to have Morpsey come in and do a similar presentation with this board at some point in the future.
But we can listen to the YouTube.
Yes.
Yes. Yep. Thank you. I strongly encourage that too.
Yep.
It was a good presentation. Yep.
And then you will see we just had zoning hearings with this board. One was tabled and one was approved. And then next week, we do have a Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. There are 2 items on that agenda for Thursday, December 15th. One is a new industrial build. They are seeking an area variance to reduce the minimum light level along portions of their property. And then the other is for a deck which would encroach into rear yard setbacks on Scarlet Avenue. That concludes the zoning and meetings hearing report.
You have a resignation too, right?
And we do have unfortunately one resolution in front of you to accept the resignation of Adam Pahovitz, who is the chairman of our zoning commission. Adam has been, I think, a great asset to the township, provided great leadership for the zoning commission during my time here and longer than that. He is moving to Sunbury with his family, so we are very sorry to see him go, but we wish him well. We hope it's a positive move for him and his family, and we will look to appoint another zoning commission member in the new year.
We can offer him a Meals on Wheels route.
Yeah, someday.
We'll let him know.
Okay.
So he's does he give the date as of the 20th?
As of December 20th, yes.
There's no more.
That's what
No, there are no more zoning commission meetings for this year.
Yeah, I listened to the zoning meetings since I've been in this, and he's been super great. And sad to see him go.
Yeah, he's highly skilled. Yeah. I've enjoyed him a lot. His work.
Okay. Make a motion to approve Resolution 22-395, accept the resignation of zoning board member Adam
Pahavich.
Pahavich.
I would like to add regretfully.
Regretfully accepting the resignation of zoning board member Adam Pahavich.
Second.
Trustee Grumbles,
Yes.
Trustee Knapp,
Yes.
Trustee Faust.
Yes.
Okay. Nothing for operations tonight. I'll turn it over to you, Chief, for your first responder pitch. Grant pitch.
Good evening, trustees. So the first four, I'll just cover basically all the same. Two are the actual approval for us to pursue grants with our first responder grants LLC, and then two of them are to allow Ms. Bonnie to oversee them and to be able to sign and work with them. So the first grant is the Assistance to Firefighter Grant. This is for equipment, vehicles, and things like that. So we're pursuing two grants with them for some of our old hose that we have, some of it over 7-8 years. And then we have the tanker that we've had it's a 25-year-old tanker. And so we were able to pursue to try to get another tanker, a newer tanker with a grant because of ours being 25 years old. And then the second is the Safer Grant, which is the so it's the Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response Safer Grant. So we're pursuing this will allow us 3 years of 6 firefighters. What I'm trying to do is right now 362 is not always fully operational. It has not been since I've been here because our staffing. We've gotten staffing up quite a bit where there are many more times. Well, I don't want to say more times. We're about 50-50 as far as if we have 2 apparatus staffed over there, meaning the engine and the medic. A lot of times it's cross staff. So this will help us pursue some staffing until we, into the future, look at what we're going to do to help increase our staffing to be able to staff the vehicles properly. So there are times where we're running with 1 suppression truck in the township, and that's just not, we're supposed to be up to 3 fully staffed at all times. So this will help us until we move into the future and figure out what we're going to do.
And I've spent some time talking to the firefighters and trying to wrap my brain around all of the cross staffing and what all that means. And so basically, so the community is aware, if we have 2 medic calls and then we have, like you said, a fire suppression call that comes out of Station 361, then we have another fire suppression call and we don't have enough staff at 362, then it would be mutual aid that would come, which you're going to get somebody, but you're not going to get someone as quickly as if you were getting someone from one of our stations.
Yes, and it goes both ways too. If we get like right now, they're on a alarm over at one of the facilities, and all the trucks are over there. So if we get a medical, there's a chance where they'll have to call mutual aid because no one's over at 362 to staff the medic because the engine's out. So when it's cross staff.
So just with the size of our, like you said, the size of our community, 35,000-ish residents.
Per 10,000 residents, we should have 1 suppression truck fully staffed in service.
Right,
so
so
right
that's
now,
1 engine, not counting the medics.
we're running with
We're
1
running.
sometimes because just having a cross staff at 362.
Already.
Right, yeah, just making sure our community's aware.
You're late.
No,
No, she's educating the
I'm
community.
educating the community just like you do.
And me too. You're educating me.
Yep. You have a whole PowerPoint on this, don't you?
Yes, yeah, we discussed it actually with all 3 of you when you came through about what I was trying to do in the future. And this is just another way to help us for a while, but the whole goal is that
We'll have to get to a point where we can fund this.
we'll be able to fund them
With
and
a without a grant.
and that will get us to the point where we will be able to have those trucks both in service, but we're still short a truck potentially as we grow. So it just,
This is just getting us
more in
to
the
2
future, yeah.
truck, 2 engines.
it's to bring us up to the where we currently where we should be, and it's going to be more into the future as we continue to grow. So
Do you foresee us needing with our industrial base kind of growing, especially with the lithium batteries and stuff, are we going to have equipment we need to deal with that?
So we're actually working right now with, we have a after action meeting on next, let's see, I think it's the 17th, if I'm not mistaken, with ATS. So we've had 3 fires with lithium, involving lithium batteries, and we have a couple more coming in, the businesses. So we're working with them, and we're also looking at maybe trying to get some assistance with them to get some classes, training, because it's not just us, it's new to us, but it's also new to them. So when we had the last fire, they were learning as they go, trying to figure out what to do because it was stuck in the compressor, and there's certain ways you have to do it. And so that whole lithium battery thing is a ongoing process for learning. We're lucky enough to have we have an EV class in January.
Okay.
The county's represented, and there's a individual, Mr. Zartman, who is like, I guess, the know-it-all when it comes to that, and lives in this area of Ohio. So we're having a class with him and to help. But
How do you put out a lithium battery fire? I'm assuming
lots
it's not
and
water.
lots of water.
It is water.
It's,
Yeah.
Is
it's
it water?
It's
So-
intense.
It's not, so water's not the main, so there's a lot of places now, if you can look online, they have crates where they put the vehicle or the battery in. Like that day they have a crate that had, it looks like cat litter. They put it in there, and if it ignites again, it turns into gel and comes around it and submerges it. But now
And the
vehicles,
facility is responsible for having that product?
yes, but and there's other hazmat stuff that comes off of that and different things that we're learning as we go
Yeah.
too.
Do you do inspections for like that kind of situation? Are there
Yeah,
fire
we inspect.
inspections?
Yeah, our inspectors inspect the facilities and everything. And
But for those kind of situations that, do they inspect for that kind of newer technology?
yes, there's, for it to be considered a hazmat facility, it has to hit a certain tier, and most of those do not store enough to hit that, so they're right on that line. But when something does happen, the off gassing and stuff does produce a hazardous environment.
So when I did the ribbon cutting at ATS, that was one of the main things that, like when I'm listening to the presentation, because they're building a second facility right next door too, and their director, safety person, I pulled aside, and he's a resident in the township, and we were talking. So if you remember, I reached out to Chief, and they had already started working together. It's lithium batteries are used a lot in the marine industry. It's what I was talking about with them. So they're the more efficient. The reason they're appealing to is they're lightweight, extremely light compared to lead acid or AGM batteries. Glass mat, with that absorbed glass mat. But so everybody wants to convert to them. The problem is they don't play well with others. You have to, anytime you're running lithium, you have to have like a dedicated circuit, or it'll do that. And so you see people in the last few years in the fishing circuits and stuff where a lithium battery will kick off in a boat. The boat's gone before it even, it's quick. They burn, they go up.
Yeah, even the small ones, right? My son had a situation once where he had to open the window and throw it out in the grass, a small one years ago.
Yeah,
because it was
chemical fire.
Even the little tiny one, but
I saw a boat a couple months ago that kicked off in a tournament, and it was floating down the lake it was just, the whole top of the boat was gone, and it was a fiberglass, but the fiberglass was all that was left.
very dangerous.
Yeah. So
very
if you don't
dangerous.
wire them correctly, it's
Yeah,
run them correctly.
that's
So
good to know.
it's good to know we're on top of that.
You too.
So there are 2 resolutions in front of you for the grant writer, and I would just like to add, if the board will consider these 2 resolutions, if you can just add to the title and issue purchase order, that helps fiscal get that ready. So, and just for the board's understanding, so there's 2 AFG. 2 AFG grants and 1 SAFER grant that this writer would apply for, and the total cost to apply for those 3 grants is $7,000. If there is an award, so if we get all 3 grants for the okay, where am I? Sorry. For the SAFER, for if we are awarded the SAFER grant, it's a 3%, that the grant, or the grant writer will receive, so 3% of the award. And then for, the AFG is 5%.
And how much are both of those grants worth that were, all the grants worth that we're applying?
We still don't know the total cost yet, but I mean, it's looking to, it could be up to $3 million, or 2 to 3 million. Is that my?
So yeah, because they'll look at the equipment cost, the truck, they'll roughly about probably, I think you said $550,000, which is a pretty good. You're going towards a truck, you know, it would only be a couple $1,000 out of pocket. And then you have the SAFER is based on the salary plus everything else, the BNF and everything else. all the
Training
benefits.
and uniforms and turnouts and all that, everything?
It doesn't cover that, it covers the salary and everything else. But
Salary
yeah,
benefits.
so the gear and stuff is something.
Any of that'll help.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
any of this, anything will help.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
And we talked to our neighbors, Genoa Township. They are using this grant writer for the first time for next year, and we actually copied the contract language from Delaware County, and Liberty Township also uses them. So
They Liberty currently uses them, correct? And they, yeah, and we did some research, and it looks like these are pretty much the only people that do this.
Yeah, I
and
had
the
a
only,
question about that.
it's unfortunate
it's a
that we
unique
have to
trade.
pay for the percentage, but I don't think there's anyone else that does it.
Yeah.
And they have a good track record.
They're very good track record, so.
Yep. I asked, could we have a grant writer for other grants? And so, you know, why aren't they working?
I had the same question.
Very specific.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
And the good thing, he's from this area, so he knows us, he knows the area, and he wouldn't steer us wrong if it was like, yeah, there's no way he's, so it'll be a good working relationship, so.
Is it an individual or a company?
It's a company, but it's an individual that you work with. It's under.
That represents the company?
Yes.
Okay.
One of the people on their staff, her husband is a firefighter at Liberty. They used to live across the street from us. I haven't seen him in a while, but
Oh, cool.
character reference.
And I have, if the board considers them, I do have I would need your signatures today, as it's a pretty quick turnaround to get ready for 23. So, okay, thank you.
Make a motion to approve resolution 22-396, approval to pursue assistance to firefighters grant AFG with Ohio First Responder Grants LLC and issue a PO.
Yes.
Second?
I'm not good at this. Okay, Trustee Grumbles.
Yes.
Trustee Knapp.
Yes.
Trustee Faust.
Yes.
I make a motion to approve resolution 22-397, approval to appoint the township administrator to oversee the assistance to firefighter grant with Ohio First Responder Grants LLC.
Second?
Trustee Grumbles.
Yes.
Trustee Knapp.
Yes.
Trustee Faust.
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve resolution 22-398, approval to pursue staffing for adequate fire and emergency response, the SAFER grant with Ohio First Responder Grants LLC and issue a PO.
Second?
Trustee Grumbles.
Yes.
Trustee Knapp.
Yes.
Trustee Faust.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 22-399, approval to appoint the township administrator to oversee the staffing for adequate fire and emergency response, SAFER grant with Ohio First Responder Grants LLC.
Second.
Trustee Grumbles.
Yes.
Trustee Knapp.
Yes.
And Trustee Faust.
Yes.
You got to rescind a resolution now?
Yes, thank you, Board. So the resolution in front of you is for the original medic that we went with, and we talked about that, how that went all downhill. So I did get the actual, I worked with Julie Don to get a form, because I wasn't comfortable with just an email saying, okay, you're releasing the contract. So she got me a form. I called the vice president of Penn Care, talked with him, he signed it. So we have a form that actually says that we're totally out of the contract of the original medic. So that's why we're ready to rescind this. And
For backup plan?
And now I will sign the new one that we approved last week. I didn't sign anything until I had the actual paperwork in hand of canceling the other one, because I didn't want to have two contracts.
Got it, okay.
So,
All right.
so we're good. We're 100% good. So that's
Okay.
what that's rescinding, is the original one back in last November. And then the final one I have is for So we approved financing the ladder truck. The company, we went back to the company, sent the information. They just weren't comfortable that, even though how it was written, and I did talk to Julie about this also, it was as whoever Herb, Andy, or Sutphen was saying was going to finance, but the company was not comfortable with not having leasing 2 in there and exact years and stuff. So we just, that's all that is just adding the verbiage that they needed. So it's just going off of last meetings when we approved last. So this is actually to who we'll be leasing with is leasing to for the ladder truck. And that's what this is establishing.
Any questions? Make a motion to approve resolution 22-400 or send resolution 21-375, authorize the issuance of a purchase order to Pencare Incorporated in the amount of $324,104 for the purchase of a new fire department medic vehicle.
Second?
Trustee Grumbles?
Yes.
Trustee Knapp?
Yes.
Trustee Faust?
Yes.
Make a motion to approve resolution 22-401, approving an agreement with Leasing 2 for ladder truck financing.
Second?
Trustee Grumbles?
Yes.
Trustee Knapp?
Yes.
Trustee Faust?
All right.
Thank you, board.
Thank you, Chief. Ms. Bonnie, we'll
Yes.
cover the fiscal office.
Sure do. So a couple things under the fiscal report. We did have an investment committee meeting on November 18th, and I do want to just shout out to the fiscal department as they have really positioned us with our investments so to have a pretty good future for the upcoming years. So just a couple updates on what we discussed at our November 18th meeting. We transferred $2 million from Star Ohio to First Commonwealth this week due to large roads paving check that will be cutting soon, as well as the end of year payrolls. Another thing I wanted to highlight, our 2021 and 2022 strategy of buying in the 1 to 2 year range of commercial paper paid off, as in $4.5 million in funds will be maturing by the end of the year. When combined with our $1 million in current liquid cash, we will have $5.5 million available to lock in at a high interest rate. So really good news there. Also, our strategy of moving $500,000 a month from Star Ohio to Fifth Third from February to October allowed us to dollar cost averaging reduced our risk of making a big, poorly timed investment with regard to interest rates. And I'm just reading off the minutes that Ms. Kraft provided. Another thing I wanted to highlight, the committee, the investment committee discussed laddering our current investments between in thirds, so 1/3 in commercial paper, 1/3 in the 1 year range, and 1/3 in the 2 to 5 year range. And so I think we plan on moving forward to that. And then the investment committee will meet again in 90 days to reassess our investment plan. Any questions?
Everything, I wasn't at the last meeting, but the meetings prior, when you see how the numbers are starting to materialize. So, our fiscal officer has done a fantastic job.
She might be the best one we've ever had
I think she is.
in the last 100 years.
Yeah, she's really good. She's really good at her job. So
It's the best one I've ever known.
You've been in government for 24 years, right?
Since 98, yeah, a long time.
So yeah, she's done a great job in pursuing every avenue to put the township in a better financial position, and works great with our folks at Fifth Third and across the board. We heard about the fraud attempt that her efforts helped catch, and I know you mentioned wanting to do that in one of your previous terms, and so just executing and building a great team here, and can't say enough good. So, and then you have a permanent appropriation revision.
I do, yes, and that is the dues and fees. We needed to move money into that, so we're pulling it from the motor vehicles in $25,000 out of motor vehicles into dues and fees for the Fire and EMS Services Fund.
Okay, and do you want to just touch base on the next one too with the website?
Do you want me to read off the financial report?
You can if you want. Yep, for the public.
Ms. Kraft did provide the November 2022 financial report. So our ending cash balance is $28,974,471.08. our fund and department cash balance, our general is holding 8.1 million, our roads is 2.9 million, our fire is 7.4 million, and our parks is 5.8 million. Our expenses through the end of October were about 15 million, and our revenue through October was 19.1 million. And I believe Ms. Kraft did want me to let the board know that as far as the December financial reports, that might be coming a little later than usual just because of end of year fiscal things. So, yes. But that is the report for that. And then I'm happy to move on to the administrative report when ready.
Yep, you can go ahead. We'll do them all in one go.
Okay. So I have two items under administrative report. The first, as we removed the school district TIF notices, but the next one is a website services agreement. So Ms. Bunting, Ms. Herbert, and Ms. Faye and I have been working on that. We're kind of the website team. So just some history on that. Guide Studios and Go Media created our current website to its day, and our contract with them as far as maintenance and any kind of editing expires by the end of this year. So we would like to move forward with a different website company called Buckeye Innovation. As the county uses them, we've called the references, heard really great feedback, and we're looking to kind of do more than just general maintenance with the website, as the team where it currently stands is not very happy with how the content ended up being rolled out. So this Buckeye Innovation would help us make our website a little more user-friendly. I think it looks really nice, but when you try to go search through things, it can be a bit challenging. So this company we would like to contract with next year, not only to maintain our website, but to help us with some editing.
And I think during the time we were doing the website work, it was a lot of distraction, right? So there were some challenges and disconnects, I think, in a prior.
And I think the responsibility kept being handed off to different people. I know I was in charge of it for a hot minute, and then Ms. Kraft was, and the trustee was, and not pointing fingers at anyone in particular, but again, we have a really great leadership team here now, and we've done our research, and we're ready to move forward with even a better website for next year.
You guys researched a number of different companies.
Yes, we had two others that we were considering, but we do feel this is the best option.
Who within our staff is going to be, like, whose baby is this going to be?
So Sydney Herbert will take the strongest lead on it, but Nancy Faye has the historical knowledge and the expertise. Really, she has had the most training on our website, so they have been tag teaming on this.
Okay, great.
And will it look the same, pretty much? Same general layout.
It will look the
better
same.
Functionality. Okay.
So it won't look like the county, because I looked at the county website when you told me that, so it won't necessarily look like that.
No. I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of change, but again, just making it easier. There's some tabs that are maybe unnecessary or things that should be included. And,
making it more efficient.
And we'll be meeting with each of the departments individually to really go into the details on what they need for their public information.
The point of my comment earlier was, I think, to your point, you made it. We're in a different position now, and I think it's the perfect time to clean that up. And then it's really a dynamic thing, right? It's not meant to be static. So having a contract in place and the right people, Sydney's done a great job too. So I think she'll do a great job on that.
And then the last thing under administrative report, this is something that I've been working with Silas on. So we have a lot of, because we've been replacing street signs, we have a lot of our old street signs in our garage currently, and we wanted to offer to our residents, if they were interested in buying them for, say, $5. So sometimes some people might find that nostalgic, or maybe I don't know. But there is a niche for that.
Better than stealing them?
Yes. So actually, I just worked with Jen on this earlier. We do have a resolution. It would be considered more of a private sale. It would not have to go through GovDeals because it's under the $2,500 limit.
Awesome.
But Ben, I do have we just tweaked the resolution, so I'd like you to read off of this one.
How do you know which ones are available?
We will provide a list of street
Trustees
names.
aren't eligible for the sale.
Send it out to the trustees first.
Gotcha.
So, I don't need to read that. Do you want me to read the whole?
Well, do you want him to read the whole thing?
We just need to enter this into the template. I'll just read the same top part.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay?
But are you good with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the same.
And I can read it.
This bold part.
That's
Okay. All right. I'm going to start reading then. I'll make a motion to approve resolution 22-402, revising and or increasing permanent appropriations established in resolution 21-389.
Second?
That was 402. Trustee Grumbles?
Yes.
Trustee Knapp?
Yes.
And Trustee Faust?
Yes.
Make a motion to approve resolution 22-403, authorizing the execution of the service agreement with Buckeye Innovation for redesigning and maintaining the Orange Township website.
Trustee Grumbles?
Yes.
Trustee Knapp?
Yes.
And Trustee Faust? Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 22-404 to allow the Director of Operations to sell street name blades to the Orange Township community.
Second?
Trustee Grumbles?
Yes.
Trustee Knapp?
Yes.
And Trustee Faust? Yes. Okay.
All right, and now we've got a quick executive session and make a motion to approve resolution 22-405 to enter into executive session to conference with the township attorneys concerning a dispute that is the subject of imminent litigation pursuant to Ohio Revised Code section 121.22G3 and to consider the compensation of a public employee.
Trustee Grumbles?
Yes.
Trustee Knapp?
Yes.
And Trustee Faust?
Yes.
Invited to attend is obviously the board, Ms. Bonnie. I'm just going to say HR Mike and Chief McNeil
And our council.
and legal counsel.
Thank you.
Poor guy.
All right, make a motion to approve resolution 22-406 to return to regular session.
Second.
Trustee Grumbles?
Yes.
Trustee Knapp?
Yes.
Trustee Faust?
Yes.
Executive session, we discussed pending litigation and compensation of public employee. No further business before us, so make a motion to approve resolution 22-407, meeting adjournment.
Second?
Trustee Grumbles?
Yes.
Trustee Knapp?
Yes.
Trustee Faust? Have a good evening.
Meeting's adjourned.
Just the cool kids left.
I know.
Only those dedicated employees.
Nobody's here.